system and go straight to the audit outcomes. Thank you, Nonku.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, as well as to the Honorable Premier, as well as the Honorable members. As mentioned, I will be taking you through the audit outcomes of community safety in Liaison. I am Nonkutalo Pepu, the Senior Manager who was responsible for the audit. I will kick off the presentation from the overall audit outcomes slides. As you can see, the department has had an unqualified audit opinion, but had material findings around consequence management. What we note is that the department does very well in terms of their preparation of financial statements. Hence, there are no qualifications or amendments, material amendments into those financial statements. And also all other areas of compliance, there is no material findings in them. And this has consistently happened over the last 3 years. So the stumbling block is then on consequence management. And the slides then emphasize on that. We also noted material findings, unfortunately, in this financial year around Program 2, the Provincial Secretariat for Police Service, where we identified that there was a particular indicator where the department, it was a new indicator, but it ended up having material findings on both usefulness of the indicator as well as reliability of the information they presented to support what they had reported in the annual performance report. So this is the regression that you will then note around predetermined objectives. I'm going to go to the predetermined objectives explaining the impact of this regression in the APR. You would note that when they submitted the annual performance report, before adjustments to the APR, there were like 20% misstatements, and thereafter then, after making some corrections, there were 7%, and the 7% talks to this indicator, percentage of dockets audited, which is the indicator that we ended up having material findings in the audit report for. So we found that the performance indicator and its target were not well defined, in that the methods as well as the processes they followed to verify the information they relied on for reporting, we could not confirm. So that's why then it ended up being an indicator and target that could not be supported. We made recommendations to the department to make use of the internal audit as well as audit committee to assist in defining this particular indicator, and also developing proper processes and systems for them to collect the information that they can use to report on percentage of dockets audited. And we also had requested that during the revision of the APP, they would then please make an adjustment to this indicator in order to avoid a reoccurrence of the finding in the 25-26 financial year. I think the impact then obviously of material findings in the APR is that it results in information that would not be useful to make decisions for the department. We note that in the annual performance report that was submitted, the department had achieved 100% of their targets. However, one then should read this in the context of the material finding that we had identified around the indicator percentage of dockets audited. Then I'm going to move to compliance with legislation. As I stated before, the one area that the department has not gotten correct is around consequence management. However, in the last 3 years, consistently all other areas of compliance, they have no material findings reported in the audit report. I move then to the reflection on unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, which talks to accountability as well as consequences. You would note that in the annual report reporting, the closing balances of irregular expenditure have decreased over the 3 years but remain very high at 28 million on irregular expenditure, which is quite concerning for a department like community safety. And in the current year's audit as well, we had identified some irregular expenditure that the department was not agreeing to, so they were allowed to disclose that as part of irregular expenditure under assessment. I think concerning is that there is 78% of irregular expenditure that has not been dealt with, and the department has made commitments to deal with this. However, the reasons for them not dealing with them is the capacity in terms of the investigating unit, which is internal control. So the delays are quite concerning, and we have really encouraged the department to work on it so that they speedily deal with irregular expenditure in order to enforce consequence management. Unauthorized expenditure remains at 65,000 over the 3 years, which had not been dealt with. But there was no new unauthorized expenditure in the current year that we had audited. It was the regularization of this unauthorized expenditure that was still outstanding. On annual fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the closing balance was smaller compared to irregular expenditure, but it's still a concern because it is fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and it is increasing because it moved from 23-24 from 24,000 to 128,000 in 24-25. And the amount is attributable to overpayments on subsistence and travel claims, of which the recoveries were then in progress as advised by the department. The fruitless and wasteful expenditure had not been dealt with of 24,000 that was reported in 23-24. And the reasons provided was that the accounting officer was yet to approve the write-off. So that's the reflection around UIFWA. And then the follow-up on recommendations that were made in the prior year was around the capacitation of the investigation function to ensure that investigations are performed on time. And this recommendation is still in progress, as seen by the amount of UIFWA that has not yet been dealt with. So we note that while they have made progress in investigating, they have not dealt with everything, and also it takes more than 30 days for them to complete investigations. We made another recommendation that once the investigation into irregular expenditure then is completed, disciplinary processes should be initiated and completed timely so that the losses that are incurred can also be recovered timely from staff, and this would then also contribute into improving the culture of non-compliance by staff members. Then a reflection on financial sustainability. We did not identify any events or conditions that cast significant doubt on the department's ability to continue as a going concern. However, there were some adverse indicators that we noted, which was the net current liability position of 17 million, as well as as well as explained that the net current liability position really signals potential for liquidity issues and indicators that the department may face challenges in meeting its short-term obligations, and that can also trigger certain non-compliances like payments of suppliers. Reflection on quality of spending by the department. The department did underspend its budget by a total amount of 5.2 million, and the majority of this underspending was related to administration program as a result of vacant posts. So we had then identified 3 systemic root causes that led to the material findings that we reported. One being inadequate review over performance planning, and this talks to this material finding around percentage indicators audited. Weak financial management controls. This talks to some of the findings that we identify relating to overpayments as well as S&T claims, because these really result in losses. And then the third systemic root cause that we had identified is insufficient capacity and accountability in managing UIFWE, as I had reflected earlier on the UIFWE slide. Recommendations that we then made was that the accounting officer, we note that it's still the acting accounting officer. However, they should ensure that the Director for Monitoring and Evaluation, M&E, strengthens the review and quality assurance processes over performance planning to confirm that all indicators and targets are well defined, they are measurable, they are verifiable, and also aligned to the department's strategic objectives. And we explain further how then the review processes should be done in order to strengthen the processes, and this then they should rope in internal audit as well as audit committee in order for them to provide an independent assurance on what the department reports when it comes to performance information. The second recommendation that we have made for strengthening of financial oversight and controls was that the CFO should enhance financial management controls by implementing robust cash flow monitoring, expenditure control, and forecasting mechanisms to improve the department's liquidity position. A financial health assessment must be conducted to identify and address potential constraints in meeting operational and financial obligations. And then the last recommendation that we had made around UIFWE was that the accounting officer should enhance the department's capacity to investigate cases of UIFWE by capacitating internal control so that they can perform these investigations or determination tests timely in order to enable an effective process of consequence management. There should be clear timelines, escalation protocols, and monitoring mechanisms to ensure that UIFW cases are investigated, finalized, and reported within the prescribed regulatory timeframes. And the accounting officer should ensure that officials found to have transgressed are held accountable and appropriate disciplinary and consequence management processes are instituted, and that would promote a culture of non-compliance. Honorable Chairperson, I will conclude there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else from AGSA? You're comfortable. All right, Premier, if you would like to make some comments.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, members of the committee, AGSA, and all officials present. First and foremost, I wish to thank you for inviting AGSA and even ourselves as the department to consider matters of provincial importance. I fortunately had an opportunity to receive the report which is being tabled today, and even to after receiving a report, to engage the department, the accounting officer, and the management on the issues raised. Because what I want to see is the department improving to a mere clean audit performance, and a department that, when it comes to consequence management, is not having delays. They are moving at a speed that is going to assist, enhance the capacity, the ethical behavior, and the development of our institution. In short, I don't have a specific question, Honorable Chair, except to thank you, even for allowing me to sit inside before the actual engagement with the department starts. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Premier. It's our pleasure. You are also first and foremost a member of the House, so therefore you are welcome to all committee meetings, but we're glad to have you with us. Members, are there any questions for AGSA? Honourable de Klerk.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is two. One is that maybe not so relevant to this particular, but indirectly. Just on the remuneration of officials outside the civil service. If I understand the rules correctly, you have to get permission before you engage with another employment outside the civil service. And that right to do that is only available for a year, and then you have to reapply. Am I correct in my understanding? And then secondly, if that is so, is there a register at the departments which you as the AG can follow up to see who got permission to be a member of a company or whatever, where there's potential income that can happen? Because it seems to me that it happens after the fact. It's asked who's members of a company or whatever. Oh my word! But don't worry, there was no conflict of interest. That is contrary to the regulations. If I understand it correctly, you have to get permission first. And if it's so, what should happen to those that do not get permission to have income from outside the legislator? That's the first one. The second one is on safety and security. It's fairly a small department. And if I look at recommendation 1, you say the review process should incorporate the participation of the internal audit and audit committee to provide independent assurance. But surely that should be happening for years and years and years. How come we call for it now, 2025? It just boggles my brain a little bit. That's all, Chair.
Thank you. Honourable Member, just as a matter of interest, we actually received a letter from the PSC which indicated that 5 members had actually had outside companies, but there was no conflict of interest because none of those companies did any work with the state.
Yes, Chair, I read that letter.
Oh, okay.
My question goes further. It says, if you are outside remuneration and you involved there, you must get permission.
Yes, that's right.
Now, there's nothing in that letter that says that they had permission. It actually is after the fact saying, but there is no conflict. My question is thus, am I correct in my understanding that you need permission? And if you don't have permission and now later on it's found out that you are getting monies, even if it is not a conflict, surely there must be some consequences. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you. I'm glad you were aware of the letter. Sorry, I just wanted to point that out. AGSA, any response to that?
Chair, thank you. To answer the Honourable Member's question, yes, you need permission. Yes, there needs to be a register. And in terms of the disciplinary action, if it's not declared, would be in terms of what the policy of that specific entity is. In terms of the register and the declaration, normally every organization, even us as AGSA, we go through an annual declaration process. So any new employee that comes in will have to declare date of employment, and then going forward there will be the annual declaration that should take place, and any additional remuneration must then be recorded via some sort of register. We also pick up findings via the conflict of interest testing that we would do to see if any employees are employed outside, and then it would come back to say, did they declare, where's their declaration, etc. So that is correct. The next question was on the internal audit and audit committee. So this year during the audit, we had an additional focus to say, is internal audit and audit committee as effective as they should be in terms of what are the audit outcomes? So if you have repeat findings at a department, why do we have repeat findings? What was the role played by internal audit and audit committee in terms of addressing it? We have a similar focus even in our local government audits. So that's where the recommendation's coming from, to say that there's just a few things that need to be tweaked at Comp Safety to actually get them closer or get them to clean audit. And audit committee and internal audit can play this role in terms of the internal audit plan and the quarterly interactions audit committee has. I'm just going to see you. Yeah, thank you. We covered.
All right, members. Sorry, Honourable Clerk, you've got a follow-up, yes?
AG, on the permission to be remunerated outside, your experience, do the departments comply with that? Or is it, as I see it, when they are questioned about it, they are just saying, okay, I am, but there's no conflict?
Through you, Chair, it's a bit difficult because every department is different. For example, I'm involved at Department of Health, and you've got the doctors that sometimes do work. So they have to declare it. There has to be, and we do that work on to look at the register of the doctors that have declared it. So it's actively monitored, because I think going back historically, there was a challenge where doctors were employed in state but doing private work. So the Department of Health is active in that. And I think with each department, depending on the nature of the department and what they do, it would be different, where some would have to monitor it. As I said, we've been doing the conflict of interest for more than 5 years. So I think the tone has been set. If you don't declare it, it's still going to come up. So there is more often now declaration. But I think with each department, it would be different, yeah.
Right, members, are there any other questions for AGSA? Questions of clarity? All right, I'll just have one question. On slide, if I'm not mistaken, let me just find it here. Yeah, on slide 10, you refer to regular expenditure, which amounts to 28 million in the current year, and it's been placed under assessment in terms of the compliance reporting framework. Is there a dispute between yourselves and the department as to whether it is a regular expenditure? Because we saw this, I think it was with education, that they also put a regular expenditure under assessment. So can you just give an explanation of that? Obviously, we'll ask the department themselves, but, you know, why is it under assessment? Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. It was not a dispute as defined, it was a disagreement. And because it was identified during the audit process, we are allowed to give the accounting officer to assess it and come to a conclusion of whether it is irregular expenditure. It relates to the approval of transactions because of the delegations issue that they had. And also, I think it was quotations around the procurement or through CETA. So they did not, and also participation in a contract for DOH for for events, and it was not a dispute. It was a non-compliance that we identified during the audit process, and they wanted to look at it further. So after then seeking technical expertise and also engaging PAG, we all agreed that it is correct for them to assess it, and then we'll follow up on it. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Okay, yeah, dispute, disagreement. I understand from a legal point of view, dispute, but there's a disagreement between yourselves and the department as to whether or not this is irregular expenditure. Can you give us any idea of where the irregular expenditure came from? From your point of view, and why there might be a disagreement on it? I mean, surely if it's either non-compliant with legislation or the procedure wasn't followed, then it's just a regular expenditure.
Okay, so
We'd just like to understand your argument so that when we hear their argument, we can try and find down the road, down the middle.
Honorable Chairperson, it was on 3 findings. The first one was the procurement through CETA, where they believe that there was a circular that was issued that actually allowed them to do the procurement the way that they did. So then we referred them to the most recent circular, but then they were still disagreeing on it. And then the other one was on the participation on the contract for DOH, Department of Health, where they were, I think they were supplying tools to the structures. And then they participated in an events contract that was procured by Department of Health. And then what we found was that the specifications were different. So then we raised that as a non-compliance, because for you to participate, you must participate in a specification that's similar to what you are participating in, or to what you are procuring. And also there must also be available scope for you, meaning the remainder of the contract and the effectiveness of the contract. So they disputed it on a legal interpretation of that. So we allowed them to look into it further. And then the other matters was around their delegations in approving the expenditure. Their delegations were incorrect. Although they agreed that the delegations were incorrect, they were saying it shouldn't result in irregular expenditure and wanted to engage Provincial Treasury further. Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson.
That's fine, thank you. All right. Okay, members, are there any other questions or clarity? Okay, well then we are done with that session. Thank you very, very much. Sorry, CLARC. Who is online for CLARC? Is it Ms. Jojo again?
Yes, it is Mongeda Jojo, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning.
Thank you, Ms. Jojo.
Once again.
Just like yesterday, can you just focus on the areas not highlighted by the AGSA? Thank you very much. Are you going to flight your presentation? There we go. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Jojo. Please continue. Ms. Jojo, we can't hear you. I don't know if you're muted. Oh, okay.
Honorable Chair, when the presentation came up, I got disconnected and I apologize for that. I'd like to just focus on slide number 7, just so that I may assist you with the times and not deal with matters that the AG has dealt with extensively. So I'm just going to then direct myself to slide number 7. And perhaps to start with commenting on one of the
Georgia, your connection is very bad. You're coming in and out. Georgia, you seem to be moving your presentation around, but we're not hearing from you.
if there's a problem with my video, I'd like to just keep it disconnected, Honorable Chair, because I keep getting disconnected as I call for the presentation. But I hope that I'm audible now. I just wanted to comment regarding the progress based on the first quarter reporting that we had with the department. And as similar to yesterday's, the report of the Auditor General was fully endorsed and all the recommendations for implementation by management. So from the point of view of the value add of those recommendations, we have fully endorsed them and expect that the department would implement them over the current financial year. We think that these recommendations are possible or are capable of being implemented before the next visit by the Auditor General. And I'm just going to comment on the issue of consequence management. Honorable Chairperson, I think, as I mentioned yesterday, we are anxious about departments where there are vacant positions in senior management in particular. So this department, we have a vacancy in the position of both the HOD and the CFO. And I think in as much as we have people that are acting in this, it is important that those appointments are formalized speedily. We think that some of the delays in concluding both the assessment of the irregular expenditure as well as the consequence management in some of the matters had to do with the fact that the acting HOD had taken office around the time of the audit, and therefore they would have needed time to familiarize themselves with the complete circumstances to conclude those matters. So hopefully we can have stability in this department as soon as the necessary appointments are made in those positions. So, but just to keep it briefly in terms of how things have progressed since the audit report was issued, we are going to be doing oversight on the implementation of the plan. But to touch on the issue of failure to report appropriately, there was a specific target that the department struggled to interpret or report correctly on. It's around the auditing of dockets, and I think they'll explain it better during their session. What they have done is that they have then changed the manner in which they track and report on this target in the current financial year to deal with the limitation that was expressed by the Auditor General. Because I think we were all clear about why that target was questionable in the manner that it was tracked and reported. So for the current financial year, they've completely changed it. They were measuring it on percentage as a percentage of cases, and now they've selected or opted to use specific numbers. So there's a specific number-based target, which is then going to deal with the problem. And I just also wanted to touch on the issue of the remuneration for work done outside civil service. And on this specific department, the CLARC will receive from the risk management unit as part of their report on risk and integrity management. one of the reporting or standing reporting items in there is whether or not there are approvals granted for people to do work, remunerative work outside civil service. So I can therefore confirm that as a matter of their policy and practice, these approvals are sought upfront. And in cases where any employee would have not sought that approval upfront, they would be in breach of a very clearly understood and adopted policy. The ones that are reported after the fact we're finding is largely on where people own businesses or have business interests other than this category of remuneration outside public service. I thought I will share that as part of my comments. So obviously we are concerned, as we are for all departments, that they be on top of their expenditure patterns and structure in order to bring certainty to the financial standing of the province. So as much as this is a small department, we encourage and expect of them to cooperate with the financial recovery process. And so far, there are no challenges. They are paying suppliers on time. And obviously, there is always room for improvement in terms of active cash flow management. The one last issue I want to raise with the committee, where there will be a delay in terms of performance and perhaps their effectiveness later on. They were planning to invest. There's a lot of improvements that were linked to an acquisition of a complaints management system that was envisaged to be brought in this first quarter, but it was confirmed that they were unable to do so because it's unaffordable. I suppose the budgeting they had just could not allow for them to acquire that system. So we're concerned about this because many of the improvement plans for their efficiency relied on or were linked to the implementation of this electronic complaints management system, but they are looking at alternatives and ways around it. So generally, Chairperson, I think we are comfortable that the plans are implemented as planned and the reporting thereof is based on the first quarter is sufficient. We'll obviously be working with peers going forward, look at and specifically some of the emerging risks and weaknesses that are being identified by the agent, so to make sure that those are dealt with and are not allowed to get out of hand. The only other, I think, besides the agency of the appointments, the only other concern that the audit committee has on this department is the impact of it, or the relevance and the impact of its programs. The suggestions, I think we have made a number of suggestions to the department that seek to just innovate perhaps and show better impact in terms of the programs that they are doing, considering the environment, the safety environment in the KZN province at this point in time. I must say that the manner in which targets are set at the moment is largely linked to compliance. So these are prescribed matters that they are required to oversee and report on, but we are pushing and demanding of them to do more in order to best to raise the credibility, for lack of a better term, of the department, considering our environment. I'd like to leave it there, Mr. Chairman, and unless there are questions, Honourable Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Giorgio. Members, are there any questions for Ms. Giorgio? I don't see any hands. Ms. Giorgio, thank you so much for your help. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure you will stay for the actual meeting with the department in case we require your input. All right, members, I think that we are then done with the briefings. We're a bit ahead of time, so I don't know if the department is actually here. at this point, but we are due to meet with them at 10:30. So it appears unless they are here and present, we can now take a comfort break and stretch our legs and go get a cup of tea or coffee or whatever. And then if they are here, members, can we maybe meet a little bit earlier? Maybe at 10:15? I'm sure we'd all like a slightly earlier Friday if possible. Okay, so let's see if they are here, then we'll ask if we can meet a few minutes early, and then we can get stuck into that. Thank you very much, members. Appreciate it. The meeting is temporarily adjourned. Thank you. All right, honourable members. AGSA, can we start, please? Thank you. All right, well, honourable members, thank you. Thank you for coming in a bit earlier. I appreciate it. And to the department, thank you very much for being here early as well. You are welcome. And thank you for being here with us. We have received a briefing from the AGSA and from CLARC this morning on the department. And so we are ready for you. But as we say to everyone, we hope that you do very well. And so please take this engagement as an opportunity to try and find answers and try and find the truth and what's going on, and then to find ways to proceed going forward. All right, HOD, what I want to do is just to explain what we're going to do. So I would like you just to introduce yourself, the length of time that you've been. I want each one of your colleagues to introduce themselves. You don't have to introduce them, they can introduce themselves, but also point out what their position is and how long they've been in that position. Okay, once we've done with that, then we'll do the oath or affirmation, depending on who is going to speak. So I'll take your direction there, HOD, on that one. Okay, all right, so let's begin there.
Greetings, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members of SCOPA, my colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present ourselves as the Department of Community Safety and Liaison. My name is Nokuthula Kanyile. I'm currently the Acting Head of Department for Community Safety and Liaison. I joined this department on the mid-June this year in the acting capacity. Thank you very much.
Okay, next person.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable members, HOD and colleagues. My name is Ayanda Mkhize. I'm the acting CFO for the department. I joined the department on the 1st of June 2025. Thank you.
Good morning to the chairperson, the members of the SCOPA, the acting head of department, the colleagues. My name is Ntokozo Mkhunu. I'm the head provincial secretariat for police service within the department, and I joined the department on the 1st of February this year. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, honourable members. I'm Makosi Pungula, Director, Integrated Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation for the Department of Community Safety and Liaison. I started in this department on the 1st of December 2021. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson and members, acting HOD and colleagues. My name is King Gobo. I'm the Director of Corporate Services. I was appointed on the 1st of April 2022. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members, as well as my colleagues and HOD. My name is Nosisa Blankenberg. I'm the Director, Risk and Integrity Management Services. I also started on the 1st of December 2021. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and honourable members. My name is Dawes Msimanga, Parliamentary Liaison Officer. I started this year on June. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Acting HOD, let's go back to yourself. You will know who's going to speak today. So I would like you to start with yourself. The oath and affirmation, if I can just explain. The oath, if you want to swear by God, you just say, I, your full name, hereby swear that I shall tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. All right. If you prefer the other option, you say, I, your full name, hereby affirm that I will tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Okay. So let's start with you, Acting HOD, and then move down the line. At your direction, who's going to speak? I would imagine at the very least yourself and the CFO. But at your direction, who's going to contribute today? Thank you.
Greetings again, Honorable Chairperson. My name is Noctula Kanyele. I hereby swear that what I will be saying will be truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God. I'm going to request CFO and Ms. Pungula, who is our M&E Planning Manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I understand Amilem Kize hereby I affirm that all that I'll speak is the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I, Makosi Pungula, hereby swear that all that I will speak will be the truth and only the truth. So help me God.
Okay, that is out of the way. We can now proceed to your presentation. We've received it. I see it's a document that's been scanned. Is that correct? All right. Okay, you need to find some people that are good at PowerPoint. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's your presentation. So please, it's over to you now. The floor is yours. You may present your report. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I would like to first tender an apology. It looks like there was a communication breakdown. There was also a PowerPoint presentation over and above this one. So because you have permitted me to use the Word document, I would like to respond to the 4 questions that were asked by the SCOPA for the department to respond to. The first one on the AG 2025 audit outcome report and the turnaround strategy. We would like to respond.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, Honourable Madloba.
Yes, no, Chair, I'm sorry to disturb the acting HOD. No, I wanted to check what is their current positions, because they are acting on their position now. All those that are acting to understand, yes.
So their primary position and then they're acting as well. Okay.
Yes.
Do you understand the question? All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My current position, I'm a Chief Director, Municipal Admin and Governance in the Department of COCTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Member. I am the Deputy Director at Provincial Treasury under the Accounting Practices section.
Thank you, Chairperson. Those are the 2 people who are acting. The rest of the colleagues are permanent in the Department of Community Safety.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. On the audit outcome and turnaround strategy, we would like to report that the department has maintained an unqualified audit opinion, which was obtained in the previous year, and in 2024 we received the same. There were 2 findings. One was on performance information and the other one was on consequence management. We would like to report progress made to date as follows. The first finding on performance information, the percentage of dockets audited. An achievement of 45% was reported against a target of 20%. It could not be determined if the reported achievement was correct, as both the indicator and target were not well defined. The progress that we have made as the department to date is that the finding has been resolved, in the sense that in the 2025-2026, which is the current financial year, in the APP, the indicator has been revised as follows. We are saying it's a number of dockets audited, and the targets are well defined in the current APP. The second finding was on consequence management. The finding was that disciplinary steps were not taken against 2 officials who permitted irregular expenditure. And the progress to date is that this finding has been resolved, in that the outstanding disciplinary processes were finalized at end of August 2025. On the second question about unauthorized, irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we have attached, Honorable Chairperson, full register of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure cases for the last 3 years, which are attached as Annexure 1 in this report. If I can be allowed to go to the annexure, we are reporting that on case number 1, under irregular expenditure, because we've categorized it in terms of each element of the UFW. The first case under irregular expenditure was detected in the financial year 22-2023. It's an amount of 88,000 rands, and the allegation is impossible to acquire 3 quotations from a tax council. In this matter, the disciplinary action was taken, and we regard the case as finalized. It involved the colleagues that are listed, the former CFO who have since left the department, a deputy director for SCM, assistant director for SCM, and an ex-employee who was the admin officer in acquisition and demand management. And then the second case on irregular expenditure, it was detected in 2024-2025, and the amount was 30,734.64. It's relating to the kilometers exceeding 2,500 threshold that was not approved by the head of department. The circular allowed that when you exceed the threshold, it must be approved by the HOD. The process, this matter is still under assessment by the Departmental Internal Control Unit. The third case was detected in 2024-25, amounting to 9,717 rands 26 cents. Again, it's an issue of the subsistence and travel. The discrepancies in business travel distance claimed, whereby Annexure B, it does appear to have been signed during a period in which the approver was not physically present at work. That matter also is still under assessment by the Departmental Internal Control Unit. The fourth case also was detected in 2024-25, involving 11 million rand, where it's relating to the expenditure not approved at an appropriate level in terms of the finance PFMA delegations in the department. That case is also under assessment by the Internal Control Unit. The fifth case, it was detected in 2024-2025, amounting to 22,429 rands 95 cents. That involves mandatory IT goods not procured through SETA, or whereby SETA is supposed to be acting as a procurement agent. The last matter, which is matter number 6, it was also detected in 2024-2025 financial year, which is 4.4 million rand, amounting to the participation contract, where the quantities talking to the quantities of items and value of participation. This is the sixth case also. One of the 5 that are under assessment by the Departmental Control Unit. On the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, the first case is amounting to 3,346.41 cents, detected in 2025, regarding an unapproved official accommodation for monitoring of elections. In terms of the process, the disciplinary action is being taken against officials. There is no criminal claim that is involved. The department has to recover the loss suffered by due to fruitless and wasteful expenditure from the officials listed. One is an admin officer, and the other one is an assistant director, crime prevention and partnership. That process is in progress. And then the second case, it's also detected in 2024-25. It's 100,000 for the special audits on subsistence and traveling expenses regarding the inflation of S&T kilometers, the kilometers that are being traveled. And then the third case, amounting to 2.3 million rand, also detected in 24-25, respecting the tools of trade procured and paid for by the department that cannot be accounted for. It's also within internal control unit. And then the fourth case is relating to an amount of 1,000 rand. Total payments made exceeded the contract value without evidence of approved variation in respect of the Petu construction. And the fifth case under fruitless and wasteful expenditure is 17,446 rand. Regarding the delays in handing over stationery for Amakos, the rubber stamp, where Amakos has to be commissioners of oath. And then the sixth one is relating to 1,188 rands regarding the delays in the handing over again of the stamps. And then the seventh case is 691 rands 68 cents, which is relating to the payment exceeded the original quoted amount to the supplier named Mpukunyoni Tech Trading. And then the last case under fruitless and wasteful expenditure is 177,000 relating the volunteer payment. All these cases, Honorable Chairperson, are under internal control unit assessment. Then in terms of the unauthorized expenditure, this one, this matter has been finalized. It's an unauthorized expenditure that was detected in 2023, which is largely ascribed to financial technicalities in the compilation of the annual financial statement, where the template has to be reconciled with the past financial system. It involved the Deputy Director from Budget and Accounting Services. The disciplinary process has been concluded and was issued a written warning. And then the main role player, who is the CFO, she resigned before the finalization of consequence management. As we know that the compilation of AFS resides with the Chief Financial Officer. Then in respect of the question number 3, the exposure to RT46 fleet management contract, we are referring to Annexure 2, which is the template that was provided to us, and we are listing the number of vehicles exposed to RT46 fleet management contract. If the Honorable Chairperson can allow me not to go through the numbers because they are clearly defined from April 2024
Acting
to March
HOD.
2025.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a failure on our part or just the department's not understanding what we wanted. But I was specifically interested in your department, and I know that technically this doesn't fall under your department. But the whole query around RT46 was the impact of the fleet management contract on vehicles being out of service because there are such extended periods of time. So I was actually hoping that you would be able to give us some sort of insight, and if you can't do it today, it's okay, I'm going to ask you to do this, on the impact of the RT46 contract on the availability of vehicles in the SAPS, which falls under, it's not your department, obviously, you're not SAPS, but do you think you'd be able to give us some sort of insight? Are you able to engage with the SAPS and give us an insight as to, we're talking about vehicles, as you know, I mean, whenever we engage with the SAPS, our last time was in Guavuma, and they said X vehicles are just standing because the RT46 contract procedures take so long. Are you able to give us insight on that, either today or in a later report?
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. We just didn't. We focused on the vehicles that are inside the department. Honorable Chairperson, we do have that information. We can provide it afterwards, because one of the responsibilities of Mr. Mkuno is to oversee the police services. So we do have that information that we produce on a quarterly basis. Yes.
Okay, if you could just help us with that information. Unless you've got, you asked me a question, I don't need you to go through each of these vehicles. We can see the expenditure. The question is how many of your vehicles are sitting idle because of the contract? Is that a problem for the department or not? If it's not, we can move on.
Can I request Mr. Ngobo to also take an oath, because I didn't pinpoint him, because he's responsible for the vehicles, and then he can respond. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Ngobo, if you can just take the oath before you start, please. Thank you.
Good morning once again, Chair, members, acting HOD and colleagues. I hereby, my name is Saki Ngobo, Director Corporate Services. I hereby give an oath that whatever that I'm going to be saying is true and only the truth. So help me God. In response to the question, Chair, in our case, that has not been a challenge, because what we normally do is that whenever the vehicle is not going to be operational for a longer period of time, we just freeze the card, the West Bank card. So it means the account of that particular vehicle will be frozen. So there is not going to be any charges from the side of West Bank whilst the car is stationary. So that is what we normally do when we are going to be having a vehicle that is going to be stationary for a longer period of time due to repairs and maintenance. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Ngobo, I think you misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying functionality of vehicles. In other words, let's say, very simple, you've got 100 vehicles.
Yes.
If 50% of them are not working because of delays caused by the RT46 contract, I'm trying to see, is that a problem in your department or not?
No, it is not a problem, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then can we just come back to the report from the SAPS?
No, Chair.
Because I think the department, sorry,
Chair,
may I just
maybe
finish?
follow up on your question, Chair.
I would like to just finish.
Oh, okay.
As I said, the focus of the inquiry is to find out about non-functionality of fleets. And I believe the two departments that are suffering the most under this is health, with ambulances, and with and SAPS. So if you could just help us with that report as soon as you possibly can. Thank you. Honourable Matlopa, I'll come to you now.
Thanks, Honourable Chair. Greetings to the acting HOD and your entourage. No, I want to check to Mr. Ngobo. Are all your cars leased or their boards? Because you said they're not affected by this TR46 company. You said when it's having a problem, you just stop it from West Bank and not use it so that you cannot be charged. I don't understand. Maybe if you can explain whether your cars are leased or they are bought.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We own these vehicles. We bought these vehicles. They belong to the department. But West Bank, in terms of this RT46, West Bank is responsible for the maintenance and repairs. So that is where we normally get a problem, particularly other departments like Department of Health and so on. That's where the challenge is, where West Bank delays to process these requests for repairs and so on. So in our case, it is not a problem because, as I said earlier on, even if there is a case where there is a vehicle that is not going to be used for a longer period of time, we just freeze that card because there are costs that are incurred on a monthly basis if the card remains active. So that is what we do just to reduce cost. But other than that, the only thing that links us with West Bank is this RT46 contract only. The ownership remains with the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwandlobo. We're obviously going to schedule a special inquiry hearings on this whole RT46 thing. That's why we're getting info from all the departments. Okay, I think we've covered this. We can now move on to your legal expenditure.
Honorable Chairperson, please allow me to just say this one.
Sure.
That I think in the I'm appreciating that you are going to give us another opportunity because there is a problem. The fact that we are freezing the expenditure to cap the expenditure, but the issue about vehicles is not only about expenditure; it's also about service delivery. So we appreciate the opportunity that you'll allow us, so that when we change the position, it's not like we're not honest. Thank you very much.
Yes, no, that's fine. So just give us your full impressions on RT46. We not only have vehicles out of service for a long period of time for simple things like services, but we've also got complaints about exorbitant prices for spares, et cetera, you know, things like that. One of the other departments that appeared here yesterday said that they'd done a price comparison between what spares are normally available at and what the spares are costing through the service provider. And so we're looking at all that. So all your complaints or issues about that, please include in that report, including what the SAPS situation is. Okay, thank you very much. All right, let's proceed then. I think the next section was the legal expenses.
Yes. No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Regarding the legal expenses, we want to respond as the department as follows: that the amount spent by the Department of Legal representation in respect of each firm, it is as per attached Annex 3, and the information that we are providing in respect of the financial years 2022, 2023, 2024, and 24-25. We want to indicate that the department utilizes the state attorney in all matters. In lower courts matters in areas where the state attorney does not have an office, the services of correspondent attorneys are used to file court papers on its behalf. In higher court matters, counsel will be appointed to represent the department. The department appoints correspondent attorneys and counsel in terms of its procurement policies and procedure, and the department does not have any role in this. Sorry, the state attorney they appoint, but obviously they charge the department. We want to refer to Annex C, where we are detailing the expenses that we incur. The first case is between ZL Mpongose and the department, a labor court dispute relating to promotion, where the applicant went to labor court in first instance, but had to withdraw and approach bargaining council, where there was an arbitration award in favor of the department, and then the applicant again took it back to labor court for review, and that matter is still pending. As we had alluded, the firm that we have employed is a state attorney, and the level of complexity is medium complexity. The rate, it is as listed, 1,300 per hour, and the total amount expended by the department is 135,920 rands. The second case is S-NICA versus SAPS, which is High Court summons. The executive authority was incorrectly cited for SAPS case, and as a result, it was withdrawn. And the amount incurred by the department is 32,400 rands. The fourth case is SL Zondi versus the department, which is a labor court dispute regarding promotion. It started at Bargaining Council, and the arbitration award was received in favor of the department. And then the applicant took the matter to Labour Court for review, and the matter is still pending. In terms of complexity level, it's high complexity, and the amount incurred by the department thus far is 110,975 rands. And then the fourth case is ND Jacobs versus the department. Again, it's a Labour Court dispute regarding performance bonus. The arbitration award was received in favor of the department, and the Labour Court reviewed application in favor of the department. And the amount incurred is 67,275 rands. And then the fifth case is department versus SD Ndawonde. It's a civil claim for abuse of state vehicle amounting to 22,624 rand 39 cents, which is a default judgment obtained and collection is underway. The amount is 7,328 rands 90 cents. The last case is Buthelezi versus Buthelezi and 7 others versus the department. It's a labor dispute regarding arbitration promotion. Arbitration award was received in favor of the department, and then the applicants took the department to Labour Court for review, and then the Labour Court referred the matter back for arbitration, and the matter is pending at arbitration. And the amounts incurred by the department thus far is 24,650 rands. The total amount is 378,558 rands 90 cents. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
That concludes your report.
That concludes my report, Honourable Chairperson. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Acting HOD. We are done there then. So, members, over to you. The floor is yours if you wish to raise any questions. Honourable de Klerk, any other hands? Honourable Matlopa. All right, okay, Honourable Mbata. Right, let's start there. Okay, Honourable Ngadi. Okay, so it's Honourable de Klerk, Honourable Matlopa, Honourable Mbata, and Honourable Ngadi.
Thank you, Chair. I'm only going to ask basically one question, and that's regarding the under expenditure because of a vacancy problem. These vacancies, how old are they? How long has these vacancies been in existence? Are you able to tell me that? And maybe I can just go on the reason why I'm asking it. Because I'm sure these vacancies is over several years already. So the problem that I do have, it seems to me that you are using that under expenditure to use it as a environment account. So if you see that you have money short in some of your votes, you go and take the money from the budget because you know you're not going to fill that post, and you utilize that then to move it to a vote that has a shortage. So that's why it's important to see when is this a continuous thing regarding vacancies. Let's use the last 3 financial years. Is it correct that in the last 3 financial years you had vacancies? In the last 3 financial years you had under expenditure, and in the last 3 financial years you moved money from that saving, let's call it a saving, to top up where you had a shortfall. Am I correct or am I wrong?
CFO to respond.
Thank you, HOD. As the department, in terms of the under expenditure due to vacancies, we always review our our spending during the adjustments period to try and offset spending pressures. However, our main objective would be to fully spend our budget. And it's not only the under expenditure due to vacancies that we'll be using to offset spending pressures. It would be based on the in-year monitoring and reviews that we would identify during the year and utilize those funds accordingly. Through you, Chair and HOD, with regards to how long the vacancies have been there in the department, I saw Mr. Ngobo's hand up. I think he was to respond to that one. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. With regard to the vacancy rate in the department and the history thereof, at the end of 2023-24 financial year, we had a sizable number of vacant posts which were below 5%, but it is during 24-25 financial year where we recorded a high number of exits in the department, particularly between July 2024 and January 2025. That is where we recorded a high number of exits within the department, and we are in the process of ensuring that this vacancy rate is reduced by end of this current financial year. Thank you.
Chair, maybe I can just follow up, or a second question. Why this high vacancy rate? What's causing it? We've got such massive unemployment in South Africa. Why the high vacancy rate?
It is the process of filling post, Chair, that is taking too long. There is a system that was introduced during 23-24 financial year, which is the electronic recruitment system. So through that system, ordinarily previously we used to have about 500 applications per post, 600 or thereabout. But after this system was introduced, we now received about 6,000 applications for only one post, and we have to do justice on each and every application that we receive. So that is why it takes much longer for us to conclude just one appointment. So that is the main challenge that we are faced with, but we are trying our level best. There are systems that we are putting in place to ensure that we fast track that process and reduce the vacancy rates drastically. Thank you.
Chair, sorry, just if what you say is true, that it is the process, how are you going to fast track it? If you've got thousands of applicants, how do you fast track it? It's not possible.
One of the interventions that are being discussed, and some of them are already in progress, we are now using our staff members, and we pay overtime for them to work even on weekends to push for the shortlisting, as well as even the interviewing. At times they even take a place on weekends just to fast track the process. But also we are liaising with other departments with the view to get assistance. But the challenge is other departments are also facing the similar problem. So we are trying though to get assistance from outside so that we can ensure that we add numbers in terms of the shortlisting, because the challenge is on the sifting of applications, and we have to do justice there to minimize unnecessary complaints and so on. So we have to do justice on each and every application. But there are many options that we are also exploring to make sure that by the end of this financial year, there is a remarkable progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to mention that in the past 10 years, vacancies has been an issue every year on all departments. It's a serious problem. Maybe we will have to deal with that issue also. Thank you. Because it has an effect on under expenditure and consequences.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable de Klerk. We're ready. The support staff have really, but the researchers have really picked up that there seems to be a direct correlation between when departments have vacancies and also many acting positions, that there is an increase in the regular expenditure, just on one metric. So that's something definitely that we need to take a resolution on. Okay, Honourable Matlobo, over to you.
No, thanks, Honourable Chair. No, actually, I wanted to make a follow-up first on what Honourable de Klerk has raised. Maybe if we can get a report, Honourable Chair, indicating the number of budgeted vacant posts, how many they are, how many has been advertised, and also the duration, because when Mr. Ngobo was responding, he talks about 2022-23, but a lot of people that have left the department is, I think, is this year or last year, something of that sort. If we can understand that one, the number of vacancies, and also, Chair, to check, because in the response he indicated that it's a number of people that has left currently. Maybe if we can get the number of those people that have left and the reasons thereof. Yes. Maybe I will make a follow-up on the other question after I've got a report on that, because it's a concern if a lot of staff has left the department, all of them, in a short space of time, So maybe there is something, because they may recruit, people will come and then will go, because we don't know the reasons, what chased the people from the department, because it has got an implication on the findings of the Auditor General, maybe the issue of capacity to deal with what has been raised by Auditor General going forward. Thanks.
Okay, Honourable Ngobo. Sorry, Mr. Ngobo. Would you like to respond on that? I'm sure he is an honourable man.
No, thank you, Honourable Member. We recorded about it was 17 posts that were exited during 24-25 financial year. So, sorry? Yes. And there were, through resignations, we had a couple of retirements that were recorded. Maybe I can share the details through the report, Honourable Member, so that I don't share incorrect information in this platform. But I'm just going to cite the reasons, the main reasons for the exits. And we recorded a couple of exits through death as well. But also there are people who got opportunities in other organizations who then had to leave our department and pursue those opportunities. So those are the four main reasons for exit that were recorded. The actual numbers is going to be covered in the report as to how many under resignation, how many under retirement, and how many people that exited through death and promotions. Thank you.
No, thanks, Honorable Chair. Thanks for a response from Honorable Ngobo. You must receive it, you know. Chair, no, my question will be based on the irregular expenditure. The department recorded irregular expenditure amounting to 28 million, which has been placed under assessment. The committee notes that the department has been slow in instituting disciplinary processes and has not complied with the 30 days time frame prescribed for completing investigations. Can they share with us what are the challenges that have contributed to this delay, and also what corrective measures are being implemented to ensure compliance going forward? Yes, Chair.
Acting HOD.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Firstly, I think it becomes very important to indicate that irregular expenditure that we are presenting before the honourable members are issues that were detected for 24-25 at the main when the department was compiling the annual financial statements, and also during the audit by the Auditor General. And some of it also was detected through the Provincial Treasury PIAS unit that was doing an audit on S&T. And the report was delivered to the department in May 2024. So they are basically recent cases that are currently underway in terms of assessment. But I just want to indicate that the reason why we're saying it is under internal control is because we're still wanting to investigate or assessing whether there is any cause to take disciplinary action or there is any cause maybe to go criminally. The issue, Honourable Chairperson, of the 30 days kicks in once we have charged the employee. At this stage, we have not reached the level of charging the employees. So we are still within. But in terms of the measures that we have put in place, or the controls that we have put in place as the department to make sure that we expedite, because we need to clean this, the UIFW register to make our books clean as the department, is that we have resuscitated a UIFW committee recently, which was a committee that was established but has been non-functional for some time, to support our internal control unit in terms of the processes of assessment. Because we are very thin, the Department of Community Safety and Liaison is very, very small, and the human resources capacity is very thin on the ground. So it becomes important that we establish this structure as a control to support the unit in the assessment. And the targets that I've given to the unit and the committee is that at least 50% of the assessment in terms of the register must have been completed by end of that third quarter, which is end of June, so that by end of financial year, we are 100% in terms of assessment. So basically, those are the timelines, because we want to expedite that all the issues are resolved. So basically, those are the controls that we have put in place as the department. Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Chair. Thanks for the response from the acting head in the department. You have indicated to us that this UIFW committee has been in existence even before. What is it that we are going to do differently for this committee to perform the responsibility in accordance with the department's expectation now, because they have been there So there has been a committee that has been non-functional, but now it has been revived. What measures that you have put for this committee to perform differently than before? Thanks.
Person, thank you very much. Like I indicated, that it's a committee that has been in place. The first thing that I did was to review the composition of the committee to make sure that it is now presided, or the membership is with senior officials of the department. It's currently chaired by the CFO. The lady seated next to me, and also we have put in legal services and most of the senior managers in the department. That is one, so that it's not, because the one that we had before was internal control laden, and they are generally not as senior in the department. So the level of accountability has been upgraded to be with senior managers chaired by the CFO, who reports direct to the HOD. And then for myself, I'm requesting that they produce to me monthly reports on the progress, so that by the time they compile a quarterly report, I am sure that I'm monitoring on a monthly basis, which is a report that is submitted by the CFO, to make sure that at least the targets that we have agreed upon, they are able to meet. As I've said, that is 50% end of third quarter and 100% by end of financial year. Thank you very much.
Is for them to perform their functions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Matlopa. Honourable Mbata.
Thanks, Chairperson. Good morning to yourself, the acting HOD, the entire entourage. Chair, I'm covered. Some of the questions Honourable Matlopa has asked them, so I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Mkadi.
No, thanks, Honourable Chairperson. Greetings to yourself, honourable members of the SCOPA, management led by HOD. Thank you very much for the presentation, acting HOD. But Chair, it's not a question per se. I have a view, but I remember, I think you have cited it, Chairperson, the issue of West Bank. Indeed, we need to expedite an inquiry about this West Bank. You know, you see, this West Bank is suffocating the entire department, government department. The manner in which how they operate. You know, I'm a politician, Slalo. Uma kunomuntu owenza like West Bank, I call him a third force. Because you remember, there is an outcry even in the Department of Health with regards to the repairs of the ambulances. When we did an oversight throughout the province of KwaZulu-Natal, each and every site was an issue of this West Bank. I think it's a matter that we need to come close, very close to it, as the house of this KZN legislature, because really, I think we have to take another decision. But it's a level that cannot be a decision from the management. It needs us as politicians to deal with the matter of West Bank, because really nothing is suffocating the service delivery at hand, just to be precise on that one. That is the only emphasis I want to raise, Slalo, with due respect. I know you have cited onto it, but we need to embark on that program of finding out what is the problem of this West Bank, because nothing is not going very well. When it comes to repairs, the vehicle, they sit months in the workshops, and they're not giving any responses. Everything is like it's a nightmare. Thank you. That's all I wanted to submit. But the rest of the other question, the honourable members have already injected, as I was going to emphasize. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Gadi. It was exactly that oversight that we did over EMS vehicles that led me to believe that SCOPA could play a role here, primarily because SCOPA is transversal. We look at all departments. And so that's why all the departments that have come to us have been asked to report on this. Not all of them have got it right, but we are offering them the secondary opportunity. And as I say, it's not only length of delay, but it's also, we believe there's possibly been collusion between service providers and officials. And we have incidents with reported instances. Everything needs to be confirmed, of vehicles that are way above the going price for repairs. All right, members, are there any other questions? I obviously have some of my own, but obviously I'll give precedence to members here. Nothing on the platform? Okay, Acting HOD, I just want to get into one particular area, and it's one of the qualification areas, which is consequence management. And I'm just concerned that your UIFW register might be incomplete. I'll tell you why I say that. I have we obviously work closely with the PSC as well, Public Service Commission, and the PSC have sent us a list of matters that they are aware of that pertain to irregular expenditure that are still pending. Now, this might just be a reporting problem between your department and PSC, but I've got instances of 19 irregular expenditure disciplinaries that have been referred and should have taken place. But if I look at your report on UIFW, you've only got 6 matters listed. So there's a concern there. Now, I'm not able to, I'm sure it'd be difficult for you to complain now, to comment now, but we will send you this list from PSC. The list is specific. It gives the names of the officials, the salary level, their opinions, but we're talking about SMS members here. We're talking about CFO, Deputy Director, Chief Director, Head of Department, et cetera. So then we do have admin clerks and admin officers. But we're going to need, you're obviously aware of the fact that you're going to appear in front of us again in February. So we're going to need you to respond to us on, so look at your list, look at this list and see where the gaps are. And then obviously with it being a finding, the consequence manager's finding, we really need a timeline from you as to when you're going to sort out those 6 that you say are still under assessment. Would you be able to comment on that just right now? The 6 that you've reported to us on irregular expenditure and the fruitless and wasteful, many are under assessment. Well, what is the timeline that you're prepared to commit yourself to sort those out?
Chairperson, no, thank you very much. We'll definitely have to reconcile our list with the Public Service Commission's one. Honourable Chairperson, in terms of the timelines, is that 50% of what we have presented must have been finalized in terms of investigations by end of this quarter, the 3rd quarter, which is end of December 2025. And then the target is that by end of financial year, which is March 2026, we must have completed 100% in terms of investigations. At least because once we finalize the investigation, at least it's implementation of the recommendations, which is fairly manageable. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, thank you. So we will send, Kabo, you will send this PSC list to the department so they can reconcile. And then also, please, we need as urgently as possible that report on the SAPS vehicles that are exposed to RT46 and any other comments you have on that contract. Okay. Members, I think then, if I'm reading the room correctly, I think we're done with questions to the department. If there's nothing else. All right. We are then able to release you. And once again, you know, we've all said this to all the departments. We want you to do well. We understand that you are normally a very well-performing department, and obviously there's been a bit of a regression, but we believe it's a regression that you can fix. So we wish you all the best with that, and we hope that when you appear in front of us again in February, all these issues would have been sorted out. Okay, so Acting HOD, that's it. Sorry, you have some comment?
No, I just want to thank your chairperson and thank the honorable members.
All right. Members, we are now going to be proceeding to hearing from the forensic unit of the Office of the Premier. Sorry, Acting HOD, we have laid on lunch, so I don't know if you want to, I think it's sensible if maybe you move to the second row. We'll bring in forensics, and then we can all adjourn for a bit of lunch. Are they here?
No, not yet.
All right. We have asked the forensic unit to come in early. We did tell them so. Members will just have to take a comfort break until they do pitch. But we are on top of them to try and pitch as early as possible. If they arrive shortly, then we can have an early day today. Thank you. All right, honourable members, thank you. So what we have now is a briefing from the OTP's forensic unit on their forensic investigations. Obviously, this is a briefing, not a hearing. These are our allies and those assisting us. Unfortunately, it would have been great if we could have taken this briefing right in the beginning, but you'll remember the first 3 days were messed up by the cabinet Lekotla and everything like that, so we had to move a lot of things around. So unfortunately, I certainly know that in February when we meet departments again, we'd love to have you beforehand, before we meet the departments. But be that as it may, you have now come last but not least. And so we would love to get your input so that we can take this information forward to our next engagements with the department. So without any further ado, I hand over to you. If you could just introduce your team and then take us through your report, and then we'll afterwards have questions for clarity. Okay, thank you. Need our assistance with the report. Yes, we did say that. Sorry, Kabo, can we organize that? Okay. Just to put the report up on the screen.
Okay.
Thanks. The report was circulated, members, so we should have it, but we're going to get it up on the screen just in case. Just bear with us.
Okay. Yes. Good morning, Chairperson.
Let's proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson and committee members. My name is Jasantha Naidu, and I am the Chief Director for Forensic Investigation Services in the Office of the Premier. I have with me today the technical team, which consists of our 3 directors on my left, each responsible for a cluster within the Forensic Investigations Unit, which I will speak to when I am doing the presentation. I would ask the directors to introduce themselves and also to indicate their responsibility in the Forensic Investigations Directorate. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Advocate Rima Mahabir. I'm a director in the social cluster at the Forensic Investigations Unit, and pleased to make your acquaintance.
Good morning, Chair and the members, and good morning to the colleagues. My name is Zodwa Umashando Waga Zondi. I am the Director in the Forensic Investigations. I'm responsible for economic cluster, it's economic sectors, investment, employment, and infrastructure development, and I'm responsible for 4 departments which fall within the cluster, which is Department of Agriculture, Department of Economic Development, Department of Transports, and Department of Public Works. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and the members and the colleagues. My name is Tim Somzobe. I'm the Acting Director responsible for the governance cluster. The departments is OTP, COGTA, Provincial Treasury, and Com Safety. Thank you.
Chairperson and committee members, I think before I continue, I was informed that there is a written apology from the Acting Director General, who is also the Deputy Director General responsible for one of the directorates being Forensic Investigations, and that is Dr. Zulu.
Dr. Zulu and I spoke yesterday.
All right. Chairperson, we have circulated 2 documents, I think, to the committee members. One is a report that we consider it part of our quarterly reporting that's signed off by the Honourable Premier on a quarterly basis, and that gives a status update on all of our forensic investigations. Once that report is received from the Honourable Premier's office, we then forward it through to our IGR department for them to then submit it through to SCOPA. So this report is religiously done by the Forensic Investigations Unit on a quarterly basis. The presentation that is flighted is a presentation that is based on our quarterly report. So whatever has been signed off by the Honourable Premier will be discussed during our presentation. Right? Okay. So if I take you through to page 2 of the presentation, the purpose of this presentation is for us to provide a status update on forensic investigations for Q2 of 25-26, specifically giving you an indication in terms of the background of the Forensic Investigations Chief Directorate, the investigation process that is undergoing within the unit, a discussion on our phase 1 investigations, which are the in-progress investigations, and a discussion on investigations that have been finalized, which is phase 2. So when a report is issued to an accounting officer of a department, an entity, or a municipality, our work doesn't stop there. We also monitor the implementation of recommendations. So those finalized investigations will be called phase 2 investigations. Okay, so in terms of the background, if we move on to slide 3, so the objective of forensic investigations that's conducted by our directorate is to ascertain the veracity of the allegations made and to gather evidence which can be presented in a criminal, disciplinary, and or civil proceedings. And we also go further in terms of looking where there are weaknesses within internal controls and then recommending improvement in those weaknesses. The Forensic Investigation Services Directorate is mandated in terms of the Premier's Minute number 2 of 2020 to conduct such investigations. Okay, we move on to slide 4. So the investigation process commences when an allegation is received, and we receive requests for investigations from various sources, such as our accounting officers. When internal audit conducts their assurance work, if there are any red flags, a letter is then sent through to us for investigations. We get whistleblowers coming in who wish to remain anonymous. Sometimes they also provide their contact details as well, and members of the general public coming through, and the AGSA as well. Allegations are normally received via written requests, reports from client departments, and even verbal interaction with all of the stakeholders that I've mentioned. Once an allegation is received, it is manually logged per cluster. So for instance, if we receive an investigation from the Department of Social Development, it will then be logged, allocated an FR number, and then it will be submitted through to the director, who is Advocate Mahabir, for the team to then conduct a preliminary investigation. Okay? A preliminary investigation, Chairperson, is just for us to understand the veracity of the allegations and to determine whether there is a veracity for us to go into a full investigation. If I move on to slide number 5, and this is just a high-level indication in terms of how our clusters operate, which the directors have already mentioned when they introduced themselves. Okay. If we move on to slide 6, which is the full investigation phase. So once the prelim has been finalized for us to determine if there's veracity to the allegation that was received, the matter is either closed or then it moves on to a full investigation phase. When a matter is closed when there's no veracity to the allegations, and then a closeout report is issued to the accounting officer after it's been approved by the Director General, and sometimes where the allegation is against the MEC or the accounting officer of the department, it then goes through further to the Premier's office for the Premier then to approve the report. When a full investigation is recommended, the matter is allocated to the director responsible for the cluster again, and the matter is thereafter monitored until it is finalized. So when I spoke to the slide with the purpose, I did indicate phase 1 and phase 2 investigations. So phase 1 is where an allegation has been received, and that allegation is currently under investigation within. So it's when an allegation is received within the preliminary investigation phase or within the full investigation phase. Then, during phase one, a report will be drafted by the team, ultimately by the director responsible for the cluster, with factual findings, conclusions, and recommendations. And the report is thereafter issued to the accounting officer of the relevant department. However, if the matter implicates an accounting officer, the report is not issued to the department. Instead, it is issued to the member of Executive Council, which is the MEC, and those reports go through to the Honourable Premier for his approval before it is issued. A phase two investigation is when we have finalized the investigation. Either the Director General of the OTP or the Honourable Premier has signed off the report and it has been issued to the respective department, municipality or public entity. So the reason why we still report back on phase two, as I've indicated, is these reports would then probably have recommendations which require the implementation. So what we do as a Forensic Investigations Directorate is that we conduct follow-ups on a quarterly basis in terms of for us to identify the status on the implementation of such recommendations. So during this phase, disciplinary proceedings are then initiated, criminal cases are registered, civil recovery proceedings are initiated, and then the internal control environment within the entities are strengthened. Okay, so if we move on then to slide 7, the approved forensic report and recommendations made. So typically, if our forensic report has a section A and a section B. So section A has the background section, background and introduction. It has what's the objectives of the investigation and the approach, the legislative background, and then it gives you a high-level summary of the full investigation. Section B is where you find the detailed investigation findings, the conclusions, the recommendations, as well as any limitations that the team may have faced whilst conducting the investigation. The recommendations are typically made in terms of 4 consequential action, which are disciplinary consequences, criminal consequences, civil consequences, as well as internal control improvements. Once an investigation report is finalized, it is then tabled with the accounting officer of the respective department, municipality, public entity. The FIS Directorate will then conduct our follow-up exercises on a quarterly basis in order to determine whether the recommendations have been finalized. If we move on to slide 8, we've just given an indication in terms of what sort of recommendations come out of our report. And that in terms of disciplinary, this is where the client department where the investigation emanates from is generally responsible for the implementation of these disciplinary recommendations. The FIS Directorate will provide assistance where it is requested by the provincial departments, and then we conduct quarterly follow-ups with the accounting officers to check of the progress made on the recommended action and providing assistance. So the quarterly follow-ups that are done is where we have our one-on-one meetings with accounting officers. This is typically done before the department attends the cluster audit and risk committee meetings, so that they are aware of where the Forensic Investigations Directorate is in terms of the in-progress investigations, and they also can provide feedback if they are able to on the phase 2 investigations. So civil recommendations, the implementation of the civil recommendations is either conducted by the client department through the department's legal services, or it is sent through to the State Attorney's Office. Criminal recommendations. The criminal recommendations result in the client department and/or entities registering a criminal case with SAPS with the assistance of the FIS Directorates. So what we usually get from the accounting officers is they say, can we please draft a complainant statement that will accompany the report for them to submit through to SAPS, and that's the assistance we provide in that aspect. When a criminal case has been registered, further investigations are generally required to be conducted by SAPS, as the FIS Directorate does not have access to a full criminal investigative tools and powers conferred on it to investigate criminal matters. But we do assist SAPS when they require, if they require assistance. Internal control improvements, this is where we found weaknesses within the internal control functions, and we then recommend improvements to strengthen the systems and to prevent the incident from happening in the future. When all implementation of the recommendations are concluded, then the matter is closed and then it is removed from the database of us in terms of reporting. Okay. Slide 9 gives you an overall indication of the in-progress investigations for Q2 that we had. So we've split it in terms of the 3 spheres that we are investigating, which is the provincial departments, the municipalities, and the public entities. And so at the beginning of the quarter, which was 1 July 2025, we had an opening balance in provincial departments of 31 investigations, 3 in municipalities and 2 in public entities. The allegations we received, and I think I just want to draw your attention, we received 11 during a quarter for provincial departments, 2 for municipalities, and 2 for public entities. What the unit is seeing is that we're getting an influx of investigations that are coming through, and the influx is most of the allegations that are being received currently is relating to HR irregularities, where there's been either irregularities in the appointment or there's nepotism. So those sort of allegations now are being referred to us. So that's why we see in one quarter there's a huge jump. We've received 15 allegations. We've issued 5 reports. The target for the Forensic Investigations Directorate in terms of our forensic reports to issue is 5 per quarter. And the closing balance, there was a typo here. I think when I was doing the presentation, the 3 looked like an 8. So for provincial departments, the closing balance is 38. The municipalities is 4. And the public entities are 4, which equates to 46 investigations that are currently in progress. Okay. The slide on page 10, it gives you a high-level summary, which I'm sure you're not going to be able to see clearly, but it is also in the report that the Premier had signed off, which was attached through. But after the presentation, Honourable Chairperson, with your go-ahead, we can discuss each department and what sort of investigations are there. But this is just giving you a high-level summary per department of where we are at the beginning of the quarter in terms of the allegations received and where we are at the end of the quarter in terms of our in-progress investigations. So if you then look at the provincial departments, as I've indicated, we are carrying forward 38 investigations, municipalities is 2, and then the public entities are 2. The column on the right where it says implementation, phase 2 recommendations, that's where the reports that we issued per quarter, so the 5 reports we issued, we give you an indication as to whether there were any disciplinary, civil or criminal recommendations that were emanating from those reports. Okay, so if we move on to slide 11, this is the status of the in-progress investigations, the 46 investigations. So from that 46 investigations, what we do on a monthly basis is that we monitor to see where is the unit in terms of the status of the investigations, right? So from the 46 investigations, we just want to note the following, that 8 investigations are within the report review phase. So the report review phase is that it's either with the senior corporate the chief corporate investigator, which is at a deputy director level. It's either with the director or with myself, but those 8 reports are then earmarked for finalization in the next quarter. Then there were 5 reports from there that have already been submitted. So it's been signed off by the Chief Director. And then the process is after it's signed off by the Forensic Investigations Directorate, it goes through to our State Law and Advisory, which is headed up by Mr. Kun. Mr. Kun just looks at the recommendations to determine against the high-level findings and conclusions whether the recommendations are implementable. And then once State Law and Advisory is satisfied with the recommendations made in the report, they then sign it off and then it goes through to the accounting officer for approval. Then if we look at from 46, there's 33 in progress. So that's how we track the expeditious finalization of forensic investigations. We're currently working on a staff capacity of 58% in our unit. There are posts that have been earmarked which were considered critical posts, and we are hoping that those processes are then initiated and finalized by the end of the financial year. Okay, so per cluster, if we move on to slide 12, so for instance, the governance cluster, we have 6 investigations in the governance cluster. And then on the right side of the column, it's giving you an indication how many investigations per department we have. So if we just go high level, Provincial Treasury, we don't have any investigations. COCTA, there's 1. Office of the Premier, there's 2 in progress investigations. And then Comms Safety, there's 3. For Social Cluster, there's 12 investigations that are in progress. In Department of Health, we have 4. There is no investigations in progress at Social Development. Human Settlements, we have 2. Education, we have 4. And Sports, Arts and Culture, there's 2. The biggest sector that we get allegations and requests, and it's understandable because there are very big departments within this cluster, it's the ESID cluster, where we have 20. So out of our 46 investigations, 20 are in progress, with Transport having 11 investigations, Public Works having 6, Economic Development 1, and Agriculture and Rural Development 2. If we move over to slide 13, these are just giving a high-level overview of the entities and the municipalities. So what happened in the past is that the unit was not investigating matters relating to municipalities and public entities. The problem was we did not have a budget to extend in terms of investigating those. Where an allegation would come through from a municipality, a letter was written to the head of to the HOD of COCTA, and the matter was then transferred over to COCTA. Once we received confirmation that COCTA had received the matter, we would then close it on our side of the book, on our record. So since Dr. Zulu has come in as our Deputy Director General, we have then been informed that our mandate should extend now to public entities and municipalities. So therefore, we just have 4 and 4 in each category, because it's only in the last financial year that we started investigating public entities and municipalities again. It was something that happened whilst the unit was at Provincial Treasury to tell us to stop, and we carried it forward through to the Office of the Premier as well. If I move on to slide 14, there's a summary of the common reported allegations across client departments. So it's just an indication of what sort of allegations we receive in terms of the recruitment and selection, in terms of the procurement of goods and services. And then if we move over to slide 15, again, the last one is we're also getting a lot of allegations relating to falsification of S&T claims as well. So those are the categories of the matters on a high level that we are investigating. And then if we move on to slide 16, this is where we now speak about our phase 2 investigations, where those matters have been finalized, and the directorate is monitoring the implementation of the recommendations. So we monitor it through quarterly meetings held with accounting officers or their delegated officials. So they might say, meet with the risk manager, as an example, or the head of the internal audit unit, and in order for us to provide that feedback, because some of them are not available all the time during our meetings. We then also do accounting officer letters. So these are letters that are signed off by the Director General, and it gives the accounting officers a high level of where we are in terms of phase 1, and then where we are in terms of phase 2. So where the department is not responding to us in terms of the implementation of the recommendations, that's also highlighted in these accounting officer reports to say there's been no movement in terms of the implementation. And then we also get updates. So our directorate, and this is where it's possible, because it's not all in all cases that SAPS and the NPA want to give us feedback of where each matter is. But where we can, we contact I think every second month we would have a contact session with the NPA and SAPS. And here, where we have our criminal investigations, we ask accounting officers to give us the CAS numbers, and then we also conduct those follow-ups and CAS. If SAPS tells us that the matter has gone through to the NPA for the prosecutor to make a decision, we then contact the NPA to find out where they are in terms of that. Okay, so it is noted that there has been slow progress made by departments in the implementation of recommendations. And the Premier has also requested the FIS Director to present the status of forensic investigations to the MECs. Recently, we prepared letters that the Premier had also signed that went through to the MECs for them specifically highlighting the delays in the implementation of the recommendations. So he's also taking a very strong stance when it comes to the implementation aspect. But I think it's important at this stage for us to mention that the criminal and civil recovery matters, the accounting officers of the department, they rely on other external bodies. So they are reliant on NPA, SAPS, and the state attorney to take those matters forward. And at times, those matters are not within the control of the accounting officer. So it's just something that we needed to highlight to SCOPA. And then just to say that the phase 2 investigations will remain open until the recommendations have been implemented. Just as an example, we had an investigation that started in 2018, and it was issued in 2019, and only this year we were contacted for us to go and provide testimony at court, because it took us 7 years for us to get to a point where the matter is then being heard at court, and then there is a delay where it has been pushed to the next year. Okay, so status on the implementation of recommendations. So since the department, since the Forensic Investigations Directorate have moved over to the Office of the Premier, that happened on the 1st of August of 2020, we have issued 149 investigation reports. So in the last 4 financial years, that's the reports that has been finalized. And then from these issued reports, 96 were required the implementation of recommendations in the reports. So when I alluded to earlier on in the slide to say there's been slow progress in those recommendations, we track and we've noted that from these 96 reports that have been issued, only 19 reports have been fully actioned and complete. So there's still 77 reports that remained open. These reports, and on slide 18, it gives you an indication of each department in which financial year reports with phase 2 recommendations were issued, and whether it's been completed or not. So the last column that has completed will give you an indication, and that equals back to the 19 that we said has been fully completed. But it just gives you a high-level snapshot of which departments are falling back in terms of the implementation of such recommendations. Okay. If we move on to slide 19, so here the slide is giving us, just to say in terms of disciplinary cases that were recommended against levels 13 and above, and then disciplinary cases against levels 12 and below, and then criminal cases that were to be registered, so where we are. So from those 96 reports that we issued that had the phase 2 investigations, there were 89 and 170 that required disciplinary cases to be implemented against officials. And then from there, against 13 and above, 40 were finalized, 97 were finalized. And then the commenced is where they are still in progress. And I think where you would be interested is the ones that have not yet commenced. So from the disciplinary point of view, we're saying there's 41 disciplinary recommendations against 13 and above that have not yet commenced. Against 12s and below, there's 42. And then criminal cases are yet to be registered against service providers are 18. Criminal cases that are yet to be registered against officials are 19. And civil cases that are yet to be implemented are 23. Now, we do have that detail in terms of which department, which investigation, and all of that, because that's how we track our implementation of phase 2. We have our own information department that's headed up by 2 officials, and that's their sole purpose, is to look into that to determine whether the departments are implementing. And then the last slide is just for us, for the SCOPA, to note the report that has been done in terms of the background of the Forensic Investigations Directorate, our processes in terms of investigation, and the in progress and the phase 2 investigations. And also to note that we do this quarterly report that is signed off by the Honourable Premier and for onward submission to SCOPA. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive report. Members, are there any questions? I do have one. Is there no member? Anybody on the platform? No. I just want to find this particular slide that I have, which gives me great concern. I think it's slide 17 of the report that you had up here. It's item number 14, status of implementation of recommendations. So this slide says that the FIS Directorate has conducted, well, you completed 149 investigations, and these reports were issued to the to the accounting officers. And then from the issued reports, 96 reports required the implementation of recommendations in the reports. Now, what's concerned, and I think this should concern all of us members, is out of the 96 reports that required implementation of recommendations, only 19 have been fully actioned and completed. So this is where this unit has said to accounting officers, look, we've done an investigation, here's an implementation required, and nothing's happened. So there are still 77 issued reports where the implementation of recommendations have not been fully completed, and you say, or even actioned. And they are listed on the next slide. So that's, I really feel it would be useful to the committee to have a full list of those with a short synopsis on each one. I don't want to give you too much work, but there are 77 cases there that we will have an opportunity in February again to raise with these departments. And I think this should also be one of our resolutions of our report after these hearings, that we need to chase these up. Because I cannot think of any reason why there would not be implementation or at least attempted implementation or some sort of explanation. So that's not a question to you, you've reported it to us. So members, with your concurrence, I would like to request a list of those 77 so that we can actually action them. So just a short synopsis of what happened, when it was detected, when it was investigated, when you finalized your investigation, a short paragraph about what the matter's about, the persons involved, the amount involved, and from your point of view, what's being done. If you can just say no action or partial action or whatever the case may be. So that, if you could report to us on that as soon as possible, I think that would be extremely useful so that we can chase up those. And if you could just, I think for our ease of use, just section them per department, if that's okay. In actual fact, it might, you know what could be good? Could you possibly give us separate reports per department? I'll tell you why. We can then send that off to the departments and say, look, we've had a briefing from yourselves. These are the issues. Please report back to us. So we'll have your document. We'll ask the departments for a report back when they meet us by the 31st of January. And then we're going to meet them in February then it would be actually quite useful to have you, if possible, at some of those hearings, maybe the worst ones. Just to, if they say, yes, we've done something, you can say, well, sorry, I'm not, Okay. I think that would be useful. Thank you very much. Colleagues, you have no problems with that, I'm sure. Right. Honourable Mbata, you've got a question there.
Thank you, Meneer. Yeah. Greetings to the team from OTP. Today it's Friday, so my friend from AGSA, he cautioned me yesterday. When we are hungry, you must not ask many questions. So on a lighter note, now given that only 19 out of 96 recommendations have been implemented since 2020, despite continuous investigation and premier level interventions, what concrete accountability or enforcement action will ensure timely implementation and consequence management across departments beyond issuing letters and holding meetings? Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. So we consider meetings like this to be of assistance, where there's oversight committees that we report back on in terms of where departments are failing. Because we're doing it as a relationship building where we sit with accounting officers and we say, these are not being implemented. Can you give us timelines when it is going to be implemented? But there are instances where the implementation of the recommendations are beyond the control of the accounting officer. And they will then say, but I've handed it over to state attorneys, or I've handed it over to the SAPs, and it's with the NPA. I don't know what's happening. And that's where we intervene. And even at times, we get told that we can't report back to you in terms of where matters are. So I think that also we need to factor in is the cases, and remember, we'll keep it open until these criminal investigations and the civil recoveries have been implemented. But I think what's also important to note is that the forensic unit is also going to be attending each of the cluster audit and risk committee meetings, where there's also that sort of committee that's sitting in with accounting officers and the forensic investigations unit. And then at this meeting as well, we indicate to the chairperson of CLARC to say that these are where we are in the status. So we're hoping that all of these interventions will then assist in terms of the expeditious finalization. But accounting officers are only involved in terms of disciplinary. The other part, which is the criminal and the civil, it's given over to other bodies, which accounting officers are not in control of. So we are trying to build relationships with SAPs. We have met with the general from the SAPs investigations unit in KZN, where we are trying to facilitate that information flow to say all of our criminal cases that we have currently on our database, there they are. Are you able on a quarterly basis, not divulging any sensitive information or anything like that, just tell us, is it progressing? Is there a stalemate? What's the reason? Are there any challenges? So I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
So can I just clarify? So when you finish a report, that report goes to SAPS and the accounting officer. Who does the referral to the SAPS?
It's the accounting officer.
So the accounting officer must refer to the SAPS.
Yes.
Is there and civil recovery, that would be the accounting officer as well?
Yeah.
So the bottleneck is the accounting officer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a concomitant expectation or responsibility on the accounting officer to report back to you as to what's being done?
Well, at this point in time, it's just us monitoring the implementation. The report back actually goes through to like an audit committee or to SCOPA. But for us, we are just there to monitor. There's nothing.
How do you monitor?
By these follow-up meetings. So we contact SAPs, we contact the NPA, we will then we'll sit with the department's legal services to find out, has this disciplinary been initiated or not? We have these quarterly meetings with the accounting officer. We then sent letters through to MECs just to say, we're not happy with the delays in the implementation. So that's what we do as you.
So what you're saying is, despite this monitoring and despite, I would imagine you nagging them to get something done, we still got 77 matters that haven't been implemented. Okay. Honourable the Clerk. So then I'll come to you, Honourable Mbata.
Sorry, Chair. Maybe what I'm going to say is just a statement. The investigators is like the police, so they've done their job. It seems to me that the department is seriously compromising this whole process. It cannot be, because if it carries on like this, it just dovetails into what the Auditor General has said in so many departments. There is no consequence management. There's a culture of no consequence management. And it's just repeated here. So we've got a dedicated investigating unit. We can just as well close it down, because whatever they do, it doesn't get implemented. So it's fruitless expenditure. So for us, it is crucial that there is results, because otherwise it's fruitless. It is a shocking indictment against the powers at the departments, the HODs. They should be fired. They actually, maybe we as SCOPA must instruct the investigating team to investigate those officials and then demand that they be disciplined. Thanks.
Honourable Mbata.
Thanks, Chairperson. What I'm sensing on the initial question that I've asked is that implementations of recommendations, they lie beyond the accounting officer's control. That's one. Two, you are saying oversight committees rely on cooperation rather than enforcement. That's the idea that I'm getting on your response. Now, what structured intergovernmental executive mechanism does the Office of the Premier plan to do or to establish to compel compliance and acceleration? That would be the first question. I'll come back with another one.
Okay, so we are in the process of implementing the Consequence Management Committee, which is chaired by Mr. Kun. So what we have suggested is that I think each department sends through a representative, even our forensic investigations, a senior official. So once, even from our point of view, once a forensic investigation has been finalized, we notify the chairperson of the Consequence Management Committee, and then we sit as a committee in the province to say, okay, there's something that came out of, for instance, economic development. This is where we are. This is the committee. Can you provide us with your implementation? And if there is nothing coming back from this Consequence Management Committee, it then gets reported through to the Honourable Premier as well. But the oversight committees, it is for enforcement, because we are reporting to the oversight committees to say, look, we are having an issue here. These investigations are not moving, the implementation of it. In terms of the accounting officers, if I can just take you through to slide 19, right? For the criminal and civil recommendations, the issue here is where it hasn't commenced. That means the accounting officer has not actioned it at all. So where it has commenced is where we're saying that there are delays on the part of SAPS or on the part of the NPA or on the part of the state attorney, which are beyond the control. But where it has not yet commenced is where it hasn't been actioned at all. And the registration of a criminal case can only be actioned by an accounting officer or an MEC.
Thanks, Chairperson. Sure. Okay. Let me go to another question. I wanted to follow up on what you've just said, but because now you are you are having plans on how to deal with the matter. So next time when you come to this committee, I'll be facing you and say, this is what you promised me. Okay. Right. Let's move on. To strengthen cooperation and information flow, is the Office of the Premier considering establishing a formal quarterly reporting framework with law enforcement agencies? Yeah, that's the question.
I can confirm that that is in the affirmative, because we have already started having discussions to find out a process that we can put in place by even signing a memorandum of understanding so that we can work closely with SAPS and the NPA in order for us to then expedite matters. So prior to us moving over to the Office of the Premier, we were at Provincial Treasury. We used to fund criminal investigations because SAPS and the NPA also have, and the State Attorney's Office, they also have capacity issues in those organizations. So what they would do is, where we've indicated that there's a criminal case that needs to be registered because our investigation has found that there is fraud and corruption, SAPS would write to us to say, we don't have the capacity to investigate this matter. And the investigator that worked on this matter, which was at that time we had a panel of service providers, we require their services to take these matters forward. So we need them to assist us with the criminal investigation, and then we need them to assist us in litigation aspect. Now that part stopped at some point because of budgetary constraints. And we then said accounting officers then has that accountability to do. They need to fund those investigations. So we are not even aware of whether the phase 2 investigations, whether SAPS and the NPA are writing for assistance and whether those assistance are being provided as well. But there isn't any matters there's not a lot of matters. Like for instance, in our last financial year, 23-24, we only, as an OTP, only outsourced 7 matters to external service providers. And emanating from those investigations, the reports were then issued through to the accounting officers. There's not a lot of reports that required expert services, where we had to outsource them. So you'll find that most of our investigations are being conducted internally by our forensic unit as well. Office of the Premier is also in the process of establishing a panel of service providers, which will assist us greatly, especially with turnaround time on investigations as well. I don't have anything to report to you at this stage regarding that establishment of the panel, but we are in discussions with the CFO to take that matter forward.
All right. Members, I think it's obviously absolutely vital that we chase up this list. So you're given the commitment to send us a report.
We will.
Separate documents per department. So it's easy for us to literally attach them and send them with a letter to the department saying, please give us a good explanation as to what's happened on these matters. And then we will chase that up. And I certainly hope that we will engage more on these issues. I see you referred to a quarterly report to SCOPA. Have we been receiving those quarterly reports? Okay, somehow there's a disconnect there. So let's make sure we receive these quarterly reports, and perhaps even if we can have the time on the schedule, which is very crammed, maybe an interaction with yourselves on a quarterly basis. All right, members, if there are no further questions, then I am going to adjourn the meeting. There is lunch available, so if you'd like to join us, so we don't have any fruitless and wasteful expenditure, you're more than welcome to join us. And with nothing further said, there's nothing on the platform, no. That ends the SCOPA hearings for October 2025. Thank you. It's been a long haul, and I thank you all for your commitment. I thank the support staff, our new researcher who's given, I can see that her questions have come into the mix. I can hear them. So that's great. That's exactly the point. And to our legal advisor and to Zama and to Kabu, who keeps everything going and puts it all together. And of course to AGSA, it's over. You have to be here days on end. And of course to the acting HOD who is still here with us. Everybody, thank you very, very much. Let's adjourn and let's have lunch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, members, just remember we'll be meeting again on 14 November to adopt a report on this, but obviously we'll communicate. Sorry? I will do that virtual. Okay, apparently.
30 minutes.
Yeah, we'll circulate a proposed report. So please keep all your notes in mind and have a look at the report closely. Thanks.